tile laying goodness, Beth Sobel art, Cascadia, coming up.
Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella from Meeple University. Today we are going to talk about Cascadia. Now, this is our Should You Play series, aka review. So as usual, we are going to get Tarrant to do an overview of the game and then our thoughts of it. So if you know what it is all about, you want to skip ahead, check the index, you can always skip ahead.
Yes.
So let's start, Tarrant.
Yes, so Cascadia is a tile laying game set up in the Cascadia region of North America,
How
which is
gorgeous.
the northwest, so up through British Columbia, Washington State, and the surrounding areas.
Mm-hmm. We dress for the occasion as well, all blue.
Yes, this is not a Cascadian shirt, but
No.
it's board gaming shirt, so yeah.
Well, I'm
We got
not.
it
I'm not. I'm like Rodney Smith's shirt.
Anyway.
Yes.
So that's where it's set, and the game is all about creating a landscape and creating patterns of animals. So it's a simple tile drafting game in that way. You can see down here on the table, you'll start with a piece of 3 tiles like this, and then on each turn you will have 4 choices. You have to take a hexagon and its associated animal piece. And the animal pieces come from a bag. The hexagons come from these from stacks.
Yeah.
And each tile is going to have, most of them will have 2 different types of landscape on them. Habitat, I believe it's called. Some will have 1, which is called a keystone tile. And so you would take the combination, you would place it. There are no restrictions as long as it's adjacent to something you've already got, but you want to be creating large patterns of the same habitat type. And then you place the animal onto any open tile that has no animal that is allowed to have that sort of animal. So I took this one with a hawk. This is the only one that can take a hawk, and so you would place that on there. If you can't place, then you just return the animal back to the bag.
This is a good example.
Yep, and then you go on from there. So players take it in turns to take a pair of tiles. There's a few different things that can happen. So the tiles will always stay out there. The animals, if there's 3, you can choose to sweep those ones out to give you more variety. Or if there's 4, it will always do that. And it just continues going around like that. So your aim is to... There's a few different aims. There are several ways of scoring points, ultimately. The game will go until you've placed 20 habitat tiles. And then scoring at the end. There's scoring for animals and there's scoring for habitats. Each animal has its own specific way of scoring. So the salmon, for example, they're going to score based on having a chain that doesn't loop around on itself. The elk are going to score for just having one giant cluster. The foxes are going to score based on the number of different animals around them. The bears will score different sort of mid-sized groups. So you want to have lots of groups of 2 or 3 or something like that. And the hawks want to be separate and they want line of sight to each other. And each of these has 4 different cards, but they all have sort of the same style of scoring, just different specifics for points. Then on your habitats, you score 1 point for each tile in your biggest cluster of each habitat type. You get a bonus if you've got the largest in that habitat of anybody. And that's essentially it. Whoever has the highest score wins.
So what are the differences between other tile placement each game, which is this one, which is Calico, which is also produced by the same publishers. I say publishers because there are 2 involved, I believe, AG and
Flat Out Games.
Thank you. So do you want to start, Tarrant? What do you think?
Definitely this game has a very Calico vibe because it is a very simple tile drafter. You've got 4 to choose from, you take one. then they get replenished. Sometimes the perfect one is going to come out. Sometimes it's going to get a little stale as you go hunting for what you've got. And you're pretty much building up your own little grid. You don't have to worry that much about what the other players are doing. So, there are a lot of tile placement games out there like that these days, I think. There's been quite a few that have come out in the past year.
I feel like that too.
And, many of them have been quite successful. And I think this one, inside that class of game, is quite an interesting one. It's a slightly more advanced puzzle, but it's got a couple of extra interesting decisions that something like a Calico doesn't have. And it really comes down to the fact that each time when you take a pair, you're only going to have 4 different tiles that you can place the animal on. And so if you've got a situation like this here, whoops, knocking that one off. There's only 3 different animals that I can take. So I'm either going to waste my animal or I'm limited to taking the tiles that have elk, foxes or salmon. So I find that that's an interesting thing in this game because it helps to limit the choice a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Unless if you have limited amount of, what is this pine cone?
That's a nature tile. So you can get a hedge against that when you get one of these. When you get an animal onto a keystone tile,
like
which
this one,
is a
for example.
Yep, because it's a worse tile because it's only got one habitat, so it can't contribute multiple points. You've only got one choice of animal. But if you do manage to get an animal on there, then you get one of these, and that gives you the flexibility to take any 2 or to sweep out the animals before you choose. So,
which is actually a good option. Otherwise, it's a point at the end of the game. Yep. You're right there. I think the extra layer of strategy is the fact that you're drafting 2 things, not just the one.
Yep.
In Calico, again, back to Calico, comparison is you're drafting 1 and this is 2. This bit, a little bit more complex. It's not that hard, but the strategy is a little bit deeper as well than Calico.
Yeah.
Sort of similar, but just a touch. And there are 4 of each type.
4 of each.
Yeah.
4 of each animal. Yeah. All in a similar style, but slightly different numbers of points.
So kind of like a variety of game.
Yep. These ones, they all play off each other well because there's ones that need unbroken collections, but then there's ones that need to be adjacent to lots of different ones, and the hawks need a bit of space. So that means you've got to think. You've got to think ahead. You're trying to build big habitats in each because there's accumulative points for doing that. So it's got some. It is still a very solo puzzle, but it's got some really nice things to think about and. Among that class of game, and I sort of sound a little negative on that class of game because I do like a bit more interaction in my play overall. But for a personal puzzle, this one was quite nice. I enjoyed it.
I think there's a bit of interaction where you can see quite easily what other players like. You stole my salmon last game. How dare you?
I did steal your salmon. We were in a. You needed a run of 3 salmon to score points, and it was the last hand that I took the last salmon away because
that's 10 points.
Because there was nothing for me that was going to score me 10 points, but I could.
I'll remember that forever. No, that's okay.
Yeah, you probably will.
Yeah, but that's actually that sort of interaction does exist in there, and you do have to look at other people, especially if kind of like, this is the last. A couple of turns, you'll see your opponents trying to complete something like you did with my salmon, because I need to score at least, I need to have at least 3, and I only had 2, and then Tarrant took the salmon, and then no salmon came out. So that sort of thing. It's more cutthroat maybe in 2 players.
I think that's always the case in this sort of game. You can depriving your opponent of points is exactly the same as gaining points in a 2-player game. Unlike a 3-player game where it's only half as good to deprive your opponent of points.
Yeah, Tarrant and his math, right? So yes, I agree with you. It has got a very interesting decision whether you want to take. It's like not just the one, but there are 2. You have to match it, and then you have to see, okay, what's to maximize this. It's kind of also easy to fall into. I want to complete all of the objectives, which I don't think is possible. Same with Calico as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe you have. Have you played this? This is review copy, but we're in Australia, so we probably get it a little bit slower. So have you played it? Maybe you have a chance of playing it. What do you think? How do you think it's different? Which one do you like better, maybe? Or maybe you can't choose between Calico and Cascadia. They both start with C. What's going on?
That's true.
Yeah. So what do you think, Tarrant? Anything else?
There's a couple of other features. There is a solo mode. There's a family mode, which simplifies the scoring greatly. There's some objectives you can try to meet in like a video game, you know, gain the stars style of thing. So it's got a number of variations around it as well. But yeah.
Yeah. We both like it, so that means like we're gonna play it again. Should you play? You decide for yourself. If you like this kind of video review type, or we do also how to live playthrough on the weekend and Thursday evening, please hit the like button. It'll be really helpful to us, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Click the meeple if you like, and hit the bell so you get notification. I'm also on Instagram a lot, so if you can find me there, hopefully we can chat to each other. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye. And comments, actually. I haven't actually said that. And comments, let us know what you think of this game. And that's it. I promise. Bye.
Bye.